Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue. Welcome to this live webinar where we're going to be talking about the Coffee Break French Masterclass. Now, we're delighted to be here. This is the third of a series of webinars, and we have been talking about the Masterclass over the past few days. Now, there's a little problem with my audio because I'm hearing exactly what I'm saying in my ear about 2 seconds later, which isn't much fun. But hopefully it will all go according to plan. I hope that you can hear the audio without any problem. Now, over the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be answering questions that we've had over the past few days. Basically, over the past 2 weeks, the masterclass has been open for registration. And we have been receiving lots of questions from prospective learners who are interested in joining the masterclass. The masterclass is for intermediate learners. So if you're working at an intermediate level of French, then this may be of extreme interest to you. As I said, I'm going to be working through some questions and answers, and I'm going to have to sort this audio because I can hear everything I say. Just a few minutes or a few seconds. That's better. Yeah, I can. That's good. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So, this is a masterclass webinar for intermediate learners, and we're going to be talking about the different aspects of the masterclass, answering any questions that you may have. So please do post your questions live in the chat while it's happening, and we can answer your questions, because the really important thing is the fact that the masterclass begins tomorrow. So you've only got 24 hours before it gets started, but we're going to be closing the registration later in the week. So this is really important if you are interested in taking your French to the next level over the next 6 months with us. So let me just check that everything's working. I should be able to bring in my computer here. Yep, so we can see that. And you should be able to see me back here. That all looks good. Now, do let me know where you're watching from. If you are, obviously when you've been learning French, how long you've been learning French. We are broadcasting today both on YouTube and on Facebook. So hopefully everything is working. The only thing I'm seeing is that I'm not getting comments through to my screen here from YouTube, but I can definitely see them on YouTube on my laptop here. So all is good. I'll be able to answer your questions. I can see, in fact, that Manal is saying, I'm a beginner. If you're a beginner, Manal, then perhaps the masterclass is not quite for you yet, but we would recommend Coffee Break French Season 1 for you if you're a complete beginner in French. As I say, let me know if you're watching. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is working here before we get started with all the information. But yeah, let me know where you're watching and how long you have been learning French for, and then we can take it from there. So let us talk a little about the masterclass and explain a little more about what the masterclass is all about. So if I come over here, our first question, what is the masterclass? A good place to start. Well, we asked lots of intermediate learners who had completed Season 2 of Coffee Break French, what are your greatest challenges as an intermediate learner of French? And the kind of responses that our learners had included the following. Things like making sense of verbs in different tenses and indeed using them when you're on the spot, when you're speaking French in a natural way. Also, I want to sound more like a native speaker. So how can you sound more like a native speaker? I want to expand my vocabulary. Some learners found that they were very confident with the vocabulary that they had covered in their books or their courses, but they wanted to expand that and use different types of vocabulary in order to extend what they were able to say. Some learners were talking about more complex areas of grammar, things like the subjunctive. I've heard about the subjunctive, but don't have a clue how to use it. And other learners were talking about all those wee words, little words like lui and en and pronouns and small little words that sometimes are very difficult to use. And ultimately what we did was take all of these comments on board and put together the masterclass course. So this is an online course and it runs for 6 months. And it doesn't run all the time. We only open the masterclass at certain times of the year, and at the moment it's enrolment time for the masterclass. So 6-month course, and there are 5 lessons per month. So every month you get access to 5 different lessons on the same topic. Each month there's a different topic, and then you get 5 lessons within that topic. But the entire course is built around structure and progression. So this is the idea that we want to make sure that where you're starting, you're going to be able to continue. There are many courses out there where you can pick and choose what you want to learn, and you can take your own path if you like. But with the masterclass, what we try to do is provide a pathway for you to follow. Something that you can start at lesson 1 and build your course knowledge through the course. And as you go on through the course, you'll build your knowledge and be able to consolidate what you've previously learned. So you'll see that in the masterclass lessons, you're learning new stuff, but you're building on what has gone before. So that's a really crucial element of the masterclass. So structure and progression. Moving on, we are always focusing on audio content, text content, and then video review materials. And there are interactive elements in the masterclass. So there are quizzes, and there are also homework activities that I'll explain a little later. And also an end of masterclass test. So we'll be testing you on what you've learned. It's completely optional, of course, but you can take that to find out how much you've learned over the course of the 6 months. We're still talking not a huge amount of time in terms of the commitment that you have to give to the masterclass. And we would suggest that that would be about 20 minutes, 3 or 4 times per week. And with that kind of time commitment, you're able to manage the classes of the masterclass and work through the materials where and when it suits you, and complete the activities that we set you. So that's what the masterclass involves. Let's move on to our next question. Our next question is, what are the dates of the masterclass? Now, as I'm asking these questions and answering these questions, you may also have questions, so please do post them in the chat, and I'll be able to answer those questions just a little later on. So first of all, what are the dates of the masterclass? Well, the masterclass begins in October 2019, which, as we all know, is tomorrow, and is running until March 2020. So the next 6 months, beginning the 1st of October 2019, which is, of course, tomorrow. Although if you're in certain parts of the world, I would imagine that the 1st of October is already today. But anyway, we're starting the 1st of October tomorrow, and that is exactly when we'll be starting the masterclass. Okay, so what content is covered in the masterclass? The content that's covered in the masterclass changes over the course of the 6 months. But what we try to focus on are 3 main areas, helping you build your confidence in vocabulary, in grammar, and building your range of expressions. So these are the key elements, but they are all working together alongside authenticity and culture. So the idea of bringing you authentic materials that you can use to help you build your understanding of the language, and also cultural ideas. So every conversation that you read, that you follow in the masterclass, will be in a cultural sense. You'll be learning new things about the culture of French-speaking places around the world. So those are our kind of 5 key elements. And what this builds into is a 6-month course. The first month focuses on tricky verbs. So verbs like savoir and connaître, aller, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you're an intermediate learner, but you may not necessarily be familiar with all of the aspects of aller. Using verbs like emmener and amener, what's the difference between these 2 very useful and important verbs? Using a verb like faire, which again, you're probably familiar with, but do you know about se faire? Do you know about faire? Perhaps not. And then using a verb like chercher. So these are the tricky verbs that we're focusing on in the 5 lessons of the masterclass. Moving on to our November module. This is November in a month's time, so we're looking at pronouns. Now, the other day we did a sample lesson from this module and looked at indirect object pronouns. But this module covers direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, those little words y and en, which are incredibly versatile, but very small. So they're small but very versatile words. Using possessive pronouns, using demonstrative pronouns, and then of course at the end of the module, like every module, you get your exercise, your activities, your review, and your module test. Okay, so that's module 2 in November. Moving on to module 3 in December. This is a focus more on vocabulary, so we're talking about false friends. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of false friends. Basically, false friends are those words that you recognise because they look very like English words and you think you know what they mean, but in actual fact you don't because they mean something completely different. So this module is about building your vocabulary. And it also, you'll see in this module that we'll naturally bring in some of the content that you've learned in the previous two episodes, the previous two modules too. So as you're working through your false friends module, you'll also see things that refer to different types of pronouns, and you'll see different examples of the tricky verbs that we've looked at in module 1. This is what we mean by progression and structure. So in the false friends module, you'll be looking at words that look similar to English words but actually mean something different, like sensible, licence, commander, passer, assister, occasion, and many more. So that's December. Moving on to January, we're going to be mastering our tenses. In January 2020, can't believe it's going to be 2020 soon, but anyway, I thought we would all be driving flying cars and things like that in 2020, but perhaps not yet. So in 2020 January, we're going to be looking at mastering our tenses, and we're going to be looking at the perfect tense with avoir and être, looking at the imperfect tense, the future tense, the conditional, and the pluperfect. And you'll be really covering everything you need to know about those tenses in this module. And again, with lots of examples, lots of content, and useful and interesting dialogues to give you that language in context. So that's January, looking at tense mastery. In February, we're going to be tackling something that learners sometimes find a little bit tricky, and that is the subjunctive. The subjunctive, which can be a challenge, but we will hopefully help to demystify the subjunctive. So we'll be learning to understand the concept and the formation of the present subjunctive, and using the subjunctive with certain triggers, including things like bien que, pour que, il faut que, and many more. And then also using the subjunctive with verbs of wishing and wanting. And all of this will be backed up, of course, with our exercise and a review and so on at the end of the module. So that's February 2020 for the subjunctive. And then our final module in the masterclass, that is our module 6 in March 2020, and that's going to be all about sounding more French. Sounding more French, so learning when to know when you can omit certain words like ne, using different colloquial question forms, using a range of filler words to sound more French and use the kind of words that French native speakers would use, and learn to use words like quoi effectively. So this is our module on helping you sound more French in your speaking and indeed in your writing. And that is often one of the favourite modules of our learners in this masterclass, because I think you come out of that one feeling as if, yeah, I do sound more like a native speaker now. So that is the content of the masterclass, and just a reminder that we're talking about coffee break languages here. We're talking about clear and friendly presentation, including native speakers, so there are always native speakers involved in the modules and the recordings of the module. There are normal speed and slower speed versions of the conversations. And we provide full transcripts and lesson notes, so you'll be able to follow everything that's happening throughout the masterclass. And of course, we also provide extended explanations, and I'm going to show you what this looks like in a little while, when we'll actually take a sneak peek into the masterclass so that you can see what it looks like. I am going to pause there because I know that we've got some comments and questions. I'm just going to look down here at the YouTube chat. So we've got Lady Dragonbane saying, did French in school, but I'm just getting back into it. Will the masterclass still be available later on? Very good question. Yes, it will be. We'll be doing another masterclass, another class of the masterclass next year. So if you're just getting back into it, hopefully you're using Coffee Break French to get back into it. Our earlier seasons of Coffee Break French, you can look at season 1 and season 2. And if you complete them, then you'd be well suited and well placed to do the masterclass at a later date. Let's see what else. So Manal says, I've been learning French since last October, 2 hours per week. Fantastic, Manal. We hope that you're enjoying it. And again, we hope that you're able to use some of our Coffee Break French materials to help you with that. Angel is saying, I'm late, but you're still a beginner. No problem at all. Don't worry about being late, Angel. You are very welcome here. We've also got some questions and points on Facebook, because I can actually put these ones on the screen. I should normally be able to put the YouTube ones on the screen, but I can't seem to do that today, but not to worry. So we've got Jed, who's watching from the Philippines, and he learned some French before, but kind of lost most of it. So hopefully you are able to build your French knowledge. We've got James saying Bonjour, je viens de Washington DC et j'étudie le français depuis 2 ans. So you've been studying for 2 years, James? Fantastic. Gracie's saying that you've been studying for French for a few months. My A1 sub-level's at Alliance Française, but I love learning from Coffee Break French because it helps reinforce conversational and listening. Fantastic. We've got Hua Hua saying Je viens de Taïwan et j'ai appris le français depuis 2 ans. So you've been learning French for 2 years. You're very welcome. We've got Pamela joining us from Mexico. Je viens de la Mexique, je suis une élève intermédiaire en français et je voudrais parler couramment l'année prochaine. Merci pour la vidéo. Well, if you're looking to speak fluently next year, then perhaps the masterclass would be exactly for you. Haley is saying J'adore ton podcast. I think Haley's in Paris. J'ai vraiment besoin d'améliorer mon français très vite. I'm guessing that you're in Paris and you're trying to improve your French very quickly. Again, perhaps the masterclass would be the right tool to do that in order to build your French, Haley. But thank you for your comments, and do let us know if you've got questions. We'll be very pleased to answer your questions. Okay, let us move on to our next question. Actually, just before we do, another little point about the masterclass. One of the other things that we'll be doing is sending you email check-ins. So we'll be checking in with you by email every time a new lesson is available, and that way you'll be reminded about the lesson and you'll be reminded to complete your homework when it suits you. So there will also be varied exercises and activities and module checklists where you'll be ticking off what you now know as a result of completing the module. And every module we have a video review, and that means you'll be able to go through the module and quickly check what you've learned, having worked through the main audio lessons of the masterclass. And then the last thing there is absolutely crucial to the masterclass: guaranteed feedback on the Coffee Break Academy. Now, guaranteed feedback, by that we mean we'll be setting you small homework challenges, and you'll be writing your sentences and posting your homework in the discussion area of the Coffee Break Academy. And we will be giving you feedback on that. So our masterclass tutor will be providing you with personalised feedback, telling you where you went wrong, what you did correctly, and if there's anything that needs correcting, she will provide a corrected version of that. So that's the guaranteed feedback that features as part of the masterclass course. Let's move on. We've got quite a number of questions to get through. How often are the lessons published? Well, as we said, there are 5 lessons per month, and these lessons come out at the beginning of the month. So between the 1st and the 18th of the month, we publish the lessons. On the 1st of the month, lesson 1, the 4th of the month, lesson 2, the 8th of the month, lesson 3, and then we stop with by sharing an exercise on the 11th, and then by the 15th it's lesson 4, and the 18th lesson 5. So that means that all the main learning content for the month is already available by the time it gets to the 18th. And therefore it means that there are almost 2 weeks left in the remainder of the month to do some review. And we help you with that review by providing the checklists and the video review and, of course, your module test. And that gives you the chance to check out what you've been learning over the course of the month. So that's an answer to that question. Moving on, what level is the masterclass? Well, I know that we've got some beginners joining us today, but the level of the masterclass is for an intermediate group. So if I explain that the masterclass, it fits along with our main Coffee Break French seasons. So we've got seasons 1 to 4, and season 1 is aimed at absolute beginners. Season 2 is where you start to build your understanding of more complex French. Season 3 is upper intermediate, we would say, and 4 is advanced. So the masterclass fits in the middle somewhere. So based on the European framework, the masterclass comes in at a B1, B2 level and onwards from there. So if you've already completed seasons 1 and 2 of Coffee Break French, then the masterclass is perfect for you. If you're working currently on season 3, then again, the masterclass would fit you well. If you've already started season 4 and you're finding the season 4 content straightforward, then perhaps the masterclass won't quite be right for you. It may not be challenging enough for you. But again, it may well be something that you would use to do some consolidation and review. That's up to you. But the masterclass, as I say, is aimed mainly at intermediate learners, so learners working at levels B1 and 2 of the European Framework of Reference, or indeed people who have completed seasons 1 and 2 of our courses or the equivalent. If you're already working on season 3, then again, that would be a good level to work at for the masterclass. Okay, our next question, how much does it cost? So the masterclass is an online course and you get access to a whole range of materials over the course of the month. First of all, you get those 5 audio lessons and the text materials associated with them, the bonus activities that go along with them, the module test at the end of the lesson, email check-ins every time there's a new lesson available, guaranteed feedback on all your homework activities, and of course at the end you get your course certificate. So the monthly cost, if you choose to pay on a monthly basis, the monthly cost is £54, and that's including VAT in the UK. If you pay VAT elsewhere in EU, then the VAT would be added at the local rate. But the excluding VAT price is £45. Or if you're paying in the States, or indeed elsewhere in US dollars, then you would pay $56 per month. And note that that is a monthly payment, and there are 6 monthly payments. And the masterclass is not the kind of course that you can try for a month and then decide that it's not right for you. You can stop paying and come out of the masterclass. You make a commitment to pay, but the choice is either 6 monthly payments or a single payment at the beginning, a one-off payment where you're getting 1 month free. So the total cost would be £270 or $225 excluding VAT, or $280 again excluding VAT for the US dollars price. So that is the cost of the masterclass. Moving on, how do I access the masterclass? What does it look like on the inside? Well, this is where we're actually going to take you inside the masterclass. I just need to come out my presentation here and go into the browser. Let me just change this. 1 second here, sorry about this. So if I do this now, you should be able to see this is our class of September 2018. So this was last year's masterclass. We can't show you this year's masterclass because the lessons are locked at the moment until they become available as of tomorrow. So each lesson becomes available on the day that is determined for that particular lesson. So you can see here, this is the content of the masterclass, and each lesson has audio content, notes, reference notes, homework activities, and so on. Let's take a look at some of these. We'll pop into Savoir and Connaître, which is our first lesson. So it's very easy to access. You simply click on the link there, and you can see here we've got an audio player here, so we could listen to that audio. We've got the dialogues transcribed there, so you can see the transcription of the dialogues. But we've also got a set of lesson notes, and the lesson notes provide more information about those dialogues. So there we've got the dialogue transcript again, and this is a PDF, so you can download this and store this and use it offline and so on. We've got vocabulary there explaining what the vocabulary, the tricky bits of the vocabulary, and then our second dialogue with more content and some further examples and exercises. So those are the lesson notes for the lesson, but we also provide what we call the reference notes. And the reference notes are more of a sort of explanation of the content. So it's almost like a grammar course in itself that forms as we build the whole content. So this is using savoir and connaître, so the formation of each of the verbs in the present tense, and then how they're used, and with explanation of exactly how you would use savoir versus how you would use connaître. So we work through that, how you use connaître to know a person, to be familiar with someone, and then we give some examples of using them in different tenses. And anything that's complicated, we'll explain there in the reference notes. Finally, our homework activity, which is where we invite, in this case, learners to post their sentences using the verbs that they've learned. Now, some people have posted very simple sentences, other people have posted more complex sentences. But you can see there that in each case, Geraldine, our masterclass tutor for last year, has provided some feedback there. So we've got, here we go. So Anna has posted, il sait ce poème par cœur, mais il connaît pas ses sentiments. So Jardine has provided some feedback. Il connaît, if you say par cœur, it should be connaître. Otherwise, you can say, il sait ce poème par cœur, mais il connaît Il ne connaît pas ses sentiments. So Geraldine has provided some feedback there and given more feedback indeed to every single student who has posted in the lesson. So you would get that same feedback if you worked through the masterclass. If we jump forward to a future lesson, let's jump forward to, I don't know, let's go to jusqu'à ce que, which is one of our modules on the subjunctive. And there again, we've got the dialogue. So it works similarly. Each episode works similarly. We've got our lesson notes, and the lesson notes explain jusqu'à ce que with the dialogues and provide vocabulary. And then our reference notes take that into a greater explanation where we've got the lesson notes explained with jusqu'à ce que on its own, and so on. So everything is explained there, and our homework activity is explained with everyone trying out their versions of jusqu'à ce que. So that is the whole of the masterclass, and you can see how the whole thing works there. And I hope that that looks interesting. We provide all of this content, and you would be able to access the masterclass from the launch day. So as of tomorrow, you would be able to access lesson 1. And then on Thursday, you'd be able to access lesson 2 and so on. So it works as you go along, you'll be able to access more content as we're working. Okay, so how do I access the masterclass? What does it look like on the inside? We've talked about that. Can I access the content on my mobile device? Well, absolutely. You can indeed access the content on any device. All of the content is web-based, so in the browser you'll be able to access the audio and the PDF documents which you can download, and you can download them and use them as you need to. So the content can also be stored on your local device, and we suggest a third-party app for that. So depending on what kind of device you're using, you can either use the device itself if it allows for downloads, or if you're using an iPad or an iPhone, we suggest an app and explain how you would use that to download the contents. And that app is called Documents. So it's a very straightforward app to use. It's simply a file storage application that you can use on your device, because that's unfortunately not part of the iOS operating system. Next question. Can I download the lessons to my computer or device? Yes, we've just dealt with that. So let's bring in the next question. Have other students already completed the masterclass? Well, yes, they have. In actual fact, this is the 6th class of the masterclass that we're running, and around 600 students have gone through the masterclass over the past few years. In fact, let's hear from some of them now. That's the wrong slide. Sorry about that. I'll just come out of there and we will get to the correct slide there for that. Here we go. Yep. So I'll bring this back in. We've got Michael Marr, who has said, I like the in-depth analysis of the different topics, the use of audio, video and written material, and the opportunity to enjoy the input of other French learners as well as receiving expert feedback. All of which makes for a comprehensive and enjoyable learning experience, which is nothing less than what I have come to expect from Coffee Break French. So merci beaucoup, Michael. We've also had Leslie, who said, I really enjoyed the masterclass so far. It has helped to stay focused on my study of the French language. Its format allows for different skills, for example, listening, reading, writing. I particularly value the video and the checklist at the end of the module, which is really useful for a quick recap of the main points without going through the entire module. And Caroline says, this is a terrific program. I can work at my own pace. I'm always learning something new. I enjoy being connected with a community of learners and I profit from the feedback. The content is logical and sequential. Each lesson builds upon and reinforces the last. The video reviews and checklists are helpful, as are the quizzes. So a few comments from some of our previous masterclass learners. And I've actually got a video testimonial as well here. So let's take a look at this.
I was looking to get a little bit more structure to my learning, and so this seemed like the ideal way to do it. At the same time, I'm a busy working mum. I don't have masses and masses of time to spend studying something, so this was an ideal short chunks focused on specific areas that interested me, such as learning more about the dreaded subjunctive, focusing in on some interesting verbs, looking at tenses, and also looking at how to sound a little bit more authentic with French. Well, I've learned a lot about subjunctive, which is something that I didn't even, when I did French at school many years ago, it wasn't even something that I was actually aware of. So when I learned about it, when I came back to French more recently, it was a bit of a shock to find a whole new sort of area of grammar that I hadn't even knew existed. So I feel that I've learned a lot about that, and I feel much more comfortable about using it. Also really interested in to learn about the, how to make my French sound a little bit more authentic, the use of the sort of like dropping the ne for the negations and stuff like that. So yeah, I look forward to putting that into practice with French people that I know. And just again having that regular exposure and sort of having, not having to do it, but choosing to do it, and knowing that you've got a lesson coming up just keeps it, it's something that's kind of there, in the background through the week. And I listen to it when I'm driving to work. Sometimes I listen to it in work, actually on my coffee break, although I don't even drink coffee. And yeah, so it can fit it in really nicely, and it just feels like it just keeps it ticking over for me. So that's been brilliant.
So thank you to Lorna there, a Scottish student of the masterclass, but we have students from all over the world taking part, and already students from all over the world signed up for the class of 2019, October 2019. Let's continue with our questions. Again, if you do have any questions, please post them in the chat, and I'm very happy to answer the questions. We'll be going for another 10 minutes or so, and again, I'm very happy to answer any questions afterwards. So let's go to a question that came in by email this afternoon from Harry. Harry asked, do we get access to the materials after the masterclass ends? Well, absolutely, because as a member of the Coffee Break Academy, you will have access to any courses that you've purchased within the Coffee Break Academy, like the masterclass and indeed any other of the main seasons of Coffee Break. So all of these will remain in your account after the end of the masterclass. The only thing that we would say is that after the end of the masterclass, you wouldn't be receiving the ongoing feedback and the ongoing corrections from the masterclass tutor. So when the course finishes in March, then we'll go through the final exam together, and then at the end of that, that's when the feedback finishes. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, Zachary sent us a question earlier on Facebook saying, I'm not ready for the masterclass. Will there be another class later in the year? And this is something else that one of our other contributors mentioned there in our comments. So yes, indeed, there will be another masterclass, but it won't be this year, it will be next year. So this masterclass is the only one that we're running in French for this year, and it begins tomorrow, and registration will close soon after that. So it is the last chance really to get into this class in the next sort of 24 hours, 48 hours, depending on when the course closes. It will close when we reach the point of the number of students that we have to limit to. So at the moment it's still open, and it will still be open until tomorrow definitely, but there won't be another chance to do the masterclass at least until April 2020. So do keep that in mind if you're considering it. Another question, this time from Angela. Angela wants to know, how long will the homework tasks take to complete in each lesson? So the homework tasks will not take long at all to complete. We don't want this to be something that is going to take over your life. It's something that you can fit in like a coffee break. Everything that we do is about trying to help you find ways in which you can use the time that you have available for something useful like learning French. And therefore, the homework tasks will be very straightforward. We'll be providing a challenge to you to, for example, as we saw earlier, include in a sentence some of the phrases that you've been working on, or the expressions, or the verbs, or the tenses, or whatever it is. And you'll basically post that homework in the system, and we will correct that. We'll provide corrections. I should also say the corrections are public. Everyone will see your homework, and everyone will see your corrections. But that, of course, means that you'll see everyone else's corrections. And therefore, if there are 50 students in, you'll learn 50 times. If there are 100 students in, you can potentially learn 100 times from everyone's feedback over the course of each lesson. Okay, let's move on to our next question from Wendy. What happens if I'm not available on the something of the month? So, for example, if you're on holiday or if you're on vacation, then that is why we've built the masterclass in this way, where the lessons go out between the 1st and the 18th, and then there is that little bit of slack at the end of the month when we'll be helping you with your consolidation, but also giving you time to catch up with things. So if you have got a vacation planned, then it's perfectly possible to work around that and do the masterclass still, even though you are on holiday or whatever. You don't need to do the masterclass while you're on holiday. You can do that when you get back. So I hope that makes sense there for Wendy's question. Another question from Frank. I'm redoing season 3. Should I do season 4 or the masterclass next? This is a very good question. Let's think again about those levels. So again, we've got our 4 levels. And if Frank is working on season 3, then he is already at an intermediate level in French. And he's considering going on to season 4. But I would say that it would be ideal if Frank could do the masterclass before he does season 4. This is going to make season 4 much more straightforward, because season 4 is very challenging if you've not done the masterclass. Obviously, you can move from season 3 into season 4, but by doing the masterclass in between, this will definitely help you, Frank, in order to build that knowledge of the grammar and the vocabulary that you're covering at this level before you move on to season 4. So I hope that answers your question. How do I sign up? Perhaps the most important question. Well, you can sign up at our Coffee Break Academy. And as I say, the masterclass is available for registration right now, and it will be closing very soon. So if you go to coffeebreakfrenchmasterclass.com, or indeed to the link that I will post in the chat very soon. Again, I'm struggling to get things into the chat today. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I will post it into the chat, and it will be also in the description of the video on YouTube, and I think it will be in the Facebook description as well. So coffeebreakfrenchmasterclass.com, that will take you to the Coffee Break French sign-up page, where you can join this session of the masterclass and indeed find out more, because there are some more testimonials there. There are some more more pieces of information about each of the modules, and you should be able to find out everything there. So I think that is all. Those are all the questions that I've got prepared answers for, because these are the questions that have been coming in over the past few days through email, through social media, through our YouTube lives and our Facebook lives that we've been doing. But if you do have any questions at all about the masterclass, then do let me know. We'll be running for another little while here, so if you've got any questions, please do let me know in the chat, and I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have before we get finished. The masterclass is one of the great things about the masterclass is that it's a course where you feel as if you belong to a class, because you're taking part in something and other people are taking part in this at the same time. Then you belong to that class. So the class of October 2019, and you're a member of that class. So you will join in all of the things that are happening during the masterclass. You'll be able to share your learning with other people, and you'll be able to also post your homework and get the responses from that homework. The lessons obviously will be building as time goes on, so you'll have access to all of this material, and the reference notes actually form a book that covers all of the aspects of the masterclass over the course of the 6 months, and by the end of that you'll be able to have this, I think it's about 190 pages of content that will represent what you've learned over the course of the masterclass. We have a couple of comments here on Facebook, on YouTube. We have got Lady Dragonbane saying, I love that you do personalised feedback. That is a very important part of what we do. Someone saying, I'm broke. Sorry about that. Manal has lost his live chat connection. Sorry, Manal. And I think that's Adele saying, wonderful. Хорошо. Thank you. Okay. I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you once again for joining us and for sticking with us to the end of this masterclass webinar. Once again, if you are interested in taking part in the masterclass, then you can sign up today, and the masterclass is going live tomorrow. So it will be live tomorrow with the first lesson in the masterclass. Our class of 2019 is already introducing themselves, and all the students there are getting their welcomes from the course tutor, And at the moment, we will be continuing to do that over the next 24 hours, and then all the actual lessons begin tomorrow. Tomorrow is World Coffee Day, so it's a very appropriate day to start the masterclass, the Coffee Break French Masterclass. And indeed, this is World Podcast Day. So we are just about to go off and finalise Coffee Break French magazine season 1, lesson 8, which is all about Le Festival de Cannes. So that is coming up just a little later on this evening. But for now, I think we will call it a day. I think we've answered all the questions. So thank you very much for joining me, and I wish you all bonne continuation. Au revoir, and of course, happy coffee breaking.